what's up, everybody? I see you out there, Randy. How's it going? We're gonna have a little bit of fun today. Been doing like several debates and stuff with creationists on different things, and um, Philbert kind of popped up in chat and was like, "Hey, I'll debate Star Wars versus Star Trek," and I was like, "Well, that sounds like a fun exercise in just arguing and debating with each other. So why not?" How you doing, Philbert?
I'm doing pretty okie dokie, right? As George Carlin would say, I'm like moderately neato. Haven't haven't quite reached neato yet, but I'm working on it. It's still kind of early.
Yeah, on the way anyway. It's still early, right?
Right, yeah. I woke up this morning. My allergies are so bad right now. I woke up and this eye was like completely matted shut, and I had to fix that. So it's still a little swollen and puffy, but doing okay.
Yeah, I got up this morning and cooked breakfast for everybody, and uh, had been just sat here about half asleep for the last hour. But
Yeah, I
um,
hear you.
but yeah, so we're doing this morning, and like I said, we're just having some fun here.
Yeah, just kind of lighten things up a little bit.
Should be pretty interesting though, but we're just kind of having some fun. If you want to see the more serious stuff, come back this evening about 7 o'clock, and we've got a three versus three debate with some creationists. It'll be me and Austin Sims and Objective Ethics versus Joseph and Achilles and Steven from over at Proverbs Guys. So we'll do that this evening. Today, though, we're going to do this, and this should be fun. So what we've done here is I think we decided like the best way to ask the question was is which one of these yeah, which one of these Star Trek or Star Wars is better for society, is the way we decided to word it. And
Right.
obviously, again, we're just kind of having some fun. So I don't care if we're loosely just saying which one's better, and just however you want to do it, however you want to attack the question. So I'll be taking Star Trek, and Philbert will be taking Star Wars, and Caitlin Chloe's already decided. So
Yeah, I see that. I was on something. We were talking about it, and I think it was the Daily Atheist Morning Show, and Chris made the comment that I've already lost because I chose Star Wars, and I'm like, you douche, that just sucks. But no, as
well,
far as this other one you got going though tonight, I saw Objective Ethics in Deconverted Man stream yesterday promoting it, and I'm looking forward to that too. That's going to be great.
yeah, I think we added the wheel thing and a couple little gimmicks in there that'll kind of like keep it moving, and um, it's not just one topic. I I think it's I don't know. I think it's a way to have fun with that too, and
Yeah.
we're working on doing some more of those in the future. Not three versus three, but with the wheel and stuff. And I'm kind of refining the ideas so that I can get the audience, to be involved too. But um, that's we're gonna try that out for the first time tonight, and we'll see how it goes. But I guess with that, we're not really. I know. I think we said like up to 10 minutes or whatever, and all that stuff. But I think the back and forths where this is going to shine. So you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Well, I challenged you, so I guess I need to go first, huh? But I prepared an opening statement here. I wrote it out and everything, and
Right on.
I
Well,
don't
I've
think it'll
I've
take ten
thought about
minutes.
what I would say. I've got it together. It's just I didn't write it down.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't think it'll take 10 minutes or anything like that.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so you want me to start?
go for it.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Can you still see me and everything?
Yeah, I can still see you good and hear you.
Okay, good. All right. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I am the mighty Philbert and the reason my wife drinks. And I'm going to start with a confession. I love Star Trek. I really do. But if we're talking about which universe gives us a better model for society, Star Wars wins hands down. It gives us a polished, idealized, Star Trek gives us a polished, idealized world where humanity has solved all its problems. I mean, you don't have any hunger, you don't have any poverty, no money, no war. Uh, it's an inspiring dream, but I think that's also a little dishonest because it assumes that if we just get advanced enough in technology, then human nature is going to fix itself. And Star Wars doesn't buy into that lie. It's the opposite. It tells us that no matter how advanced we become, the real battle will always be within us, the Force. And that's not just a gadget, it's a metaphor for the moral and spiritual tug of war we all feel every day. The light and dark sides aren't just Jedi poetry. They're reflections of real human struggles like compassion versus control, humility versus power, freedom versus fear. So it's not science fiction, it's real life. Um, and look at the systems each world creates. The Federation in Star Trek is basically a benevolent bureaucracy. It's centralized, technocratic, and run by committees of admirals and captains who get to decide which planets are ready for contact. It's top down idealism. But the galaxy far, far away is a living, breathing society. It's diverse, chaotic, and sometimes corrupt, but full of independent worlds. It's full of smuggler economies, small rebel bands, and spiritual communities that exist outside of government control. It's decentralized freedom, and that's what makes it human. I mean, think about the Rebel Alliance. They're not fighting because someone told them to. They're not following some prime directive. They're fighting because tyranny exists and because freedom is worth bleeding for. That's democracy at its rawest. That's people choosing to act, not waiting for utopia to be handed down by some Federation council. And then you have the Jedi, who are flawed, absolutely, but their entire philosophy is about a balance, not domination. They don't believe in conquering the universe or enforcing their ideology on others. They believe in discipline, compassion, and mindfulness. If anything, they're like the moral conscience of the galaxy. Compare that to the Federation, which has to send lawyers to figure out if helping a planet is against the rules. Star Trek imagines peace through control. Star Wars imagines peace through choice. And choice, even messy, imperfect choice, is what makes a society free. And that's the heart of why I think Star Wars is the better model, because it understands that freedom and morality can't be programmed or legislated. They have to be chosen every day by individuals. The Federation may have warp drives and replicators, but it still runs on rules and hierarchy. Star Wars runs on hope, on people who look at impossible odds and say, "Not today, Empire." It's a world that celebrates faith, not necessarily religious faith, but faith in something bigger. The idea that every being, no matter how small, like me, can make a difference. So if you want to build a society where people are comfortable and compliant, then sure, beam me up. But if you want a society that values freedom, courage, individuality, and moral struggle, then I'm going to take the one with lightsabers, smugglers, and rebellions any day of the week. Because the Force isn't just with us, it's within us. And that's the kind of society worth believing in. And that's it. Uh oh, we lost Joe. All right. Um. Anyway, I'm trying to look at some of your comments here. Hey, PC, Randy, Caitlin, Deviant Outcast is here. Awesome. Um. Come on, Caitlin. My name's Phil or Philbert. You don't have to say this guy. That makes me sound like you don't like me at all. Well, yeah, Star Wars has the Empire, but you know, we rebel against that. I don't know what happened to Joe. Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, my name's Philbert. You can call me Phil. Um, I think that's what it is. Yeah, I called in some of my friends from the Sith to put some bad mojo out there on Joe. It's working. Hi, Caitlin. So, how about those Yankees? Well, no, that season's over. Let's see. So, how do I have a misunderstanding of the Federation? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Oh, yeah, you're still driving. Never mind. Talk to me about that later, Caitlin. Um, so I did post something at the top of this that if it does look like I'm losing, to please distract Joe with something political because I know that'll get him off on a tangent, and I'll have a chance to recover. Joe was raptured. Hey, Robin, how's it going? I'm worried about Joe. Oh, there he is. Yay.
Sorry,
We thought
sorry.
you were raptured.
Yeah, it happens occasionally here. My there my powered USB port is going out and it screws up occasionally, so uh,
Did
causes some
you
problems.
did you hear my opening, or do I need to do it again?
Not a word of it.
Not a word of it. Oh
Yeah,
man,
sorry.
that's all right. Well, is it okay to do it again? Should I do it
Do
again,
it
or
again. Do it again. Everybody be all right. People
all
are
right?
still coming in anyway. There's only 3 or 4 people here, so
Okay, so I'll try to be as passionate as I was the first time with this. Uh, so I said, I wanted to start with the confession that I do love Star Trek. I really do. But I said I thought Star Wars wins hands down when it comes to what's a better model for society. I said how Star Trek gives us a polished, idealized world where humanity has solved all its problems: no hunger, no poverty, no money, no war. And I said, that's an inspiring dream, but it's also a little dishonest because it assumes that if we get advanced enough technology, then human nature is going to fix itself. And Star Wars doesn't buy that lie. It's the opposite. It tells us that no matter how advanced we become, the real battle is always within us. The Force, it's not a gadget. It's a metaphor for the moral and spiritual tug of war we all feel every day. The light and dark sides aren't Jedi poetry, they're reflections of real human struggles: compassion versus control, humility versus power, freedom versus fear. And I said, that's not science fiction, it's real life. It's what we deal with every day. And then look at the systems each world creates. The Federation in Star Trek is basically a benevolent bureaucracy, centralized, technocratic, run by committees of admirals and captains who get to decide which planets are ready for contact. It's top down idealism. But I said the galaxy far, far away is a living, breathing society, diverse, chaotic, sometimes corrupt, but full of independent worlds, smuggler economies, small rebel bands, and spiritual communities that exist outside government control. It's decentralized freedom, and that's what makes it human. When you think about the Rebel Alliance, they're not fighting because someone told them to. They're not following a prime directive. They're fighting because tyranny exists and because freedom is worth bleeding for. And that's democracy at its rawest. People choosing to act, not waiting for utopia to be handed down by some Federation Council. And then I talked about the Jedi, how, yeah, they're flawed, absolutely, but their entire philosophy is about balance, not domination. They don't believe in conquering the universe or enforcing their ideology on others. They believe in discipline, compassion, and mindfulness. If anything, they're like the moral conscience of the galaxy. Now, compare that to the Federation, who has to send lawyers to figure out if helping a planet is against the rules. Star Trek imagines peace through control, but Star Wars imagines peace through choice. And choice, even messy, imperfect choice, is what makes a society free. And that's the heart of why I think Star Wars is the better model. It understands that freedom and morality can't be programmed or legislated, they have to be chosen every day by individuals. So the Federation might have warp drives and replicators, but it still runs on rules and hierarchy. Star Wars runs on hope, on people who look at impossible odds and say, "Not today, Empire." It's a world that celebrates faith, not religious faith, but faith in something bigger. The idea that every being, no matter how small, can make a difference. So if you want to build a society where people are comfortable and compliant, then sure, beam me up. But if you want a society that values freedom, courage, and individuality and moral struggle, then I'm going to take the one with lightsabers, smugglers, and rebellions any day of the week. Because the Force isn't just with us, it's within us. And that's the kind of society worth believing in. And that was it.
Okay, great job. So uh, in the Star Trek universe, space is the final frontier. The and yes, they have came to these uh, what they call utopian societies, or what we would call a utopian society, where they've done away with war and hunger and all those things. Um, but I think as we see later in the Star Trek series, that it's not so much that they've conquered all those things, but that they have that ideal, and that they're striving for those, because by the end of Picard, which takes place in the Star Trek universe, we see that things aren't as great as we were led to believe, and that there is still these battles of good and evil. The the Star Trek universe thinks that it's figured things out, only to later have man realize that maybe it wasn't as figured out as they thought, and the universe is much larger than they gave it credit for. The Now I know that sounds like I'm laying out some sort of negative take here, but um, what Philbert was talking about in a universe where you've already figured everything out, there's nothing really left to do. Um, and so I don't think that Star Trek has those things as figured out as they would have you believe in the early series. But that being said, they do have a peaceful federation of planets, whereas in Star Trek, that and I'm trying not to respond to your opening here, but in Star Wars, that hierarchy does exist still. It's called the Empire, and that Empire doesn't just control one part of one quadrant of space. It controls. It's the Galactic Empire, and it's an evil empire. And uh, while in Star Wars they're fighting against this galactic empire, we see a lot of things prevalent even on free planets. Tatooine is filled with slaves. Uh, the and this goes on in other planets. I can't remember the name of the world, but the gambling planet that they visit in the in the later Disney Star Trek versions is there's slavery taking place there, and oh, that's in yeah, yeah, and the while there are some little corners of space that are shown to have this in the Star Trek universe, seems to be something that's been done away with for the most part, and the species that do have that are are minimized and aren't part of this utopian society they're trying to build. The technology in Star Trek definitely outweighs the technology in Star Wars. They have transporters and replicators and lots of other things that just work. The I will say that I think that maybe Star Wars has faster than light travel down better than Star Trek, but again, we don't really know what size that galaxy is, so I'm not so sure that's true. But um, Star Trek, for the most part, takes place in one quadrant of space. Later, they discover other places with Voyager and things like that. But the the Star Trek world is a growing world, and peace is the primary goal that they have for the people in these worlds. They even try to make peace with their enemies, the Romulans and the even the Borg. At one point, they try to have peaceful relations with, which blows up in their face. But still, the goal is peace here. The United Federation of Planets has been uh, built for hundreds of years and contains lots and lots of different planets that all share this goal. And while money isn't necessarily a thing with the human race, um, they do share some sort of commerce with these other races as well. So um, I think that Star Trek is more of them having a clear idea of the world they want and pursuing it, and at least thinking that they've reached it, even if they hadn't. Whereas Star Wars seems to be a society that has been consumed by war and uh, planet killing empire weapons for I want to say like it's been like 130 years by the end of the Star Wars series that these things have been going on, at least in the mainline movies. I know that canon goes back further than that, but the um, the universe just seems to be in a better place in Star Trek than in Star Wars. And with that's all I got. Uh, go for it.
Okay, well, one thing you said here was, yeah, you said Star Trek represents peace and progress, basically, right? But Star Trek's peace only exists because the Federation controls everything, right?
I don't I don't know that they control everything. I think I to say the Federation controls thing. I think controls everything. I think is a misnomer because it's not that they control it. These planets willingly joined the Federation of Planets.
Okay, but the second someone doesn't play by the rules, what happens? They become the enemy. And, you know, that, where with Star Wars, conflict's a part of existence, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's better.
Well, I mean, peace without freedom to dissent isn't peace. I mean, that's just sedation.
Well, I don't know that. First of all, I don't know that Star Trek forces anyone to join the Federation of Planets or makes it to where if they don't, they're an enemy.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Well, I don't know anywhere where that plays out that way though. There are planets, especially in like Enterprise, that aren't interested in joining the Federation of Planets, and they move on. Not that there is no. Whereas I think in Star Wars, if you refuse to capitulate to the Empire, they destroy your entire planet all at once.
Okay. I don't know. All right. Then I don't know. You said that. You said it's like a growing world with the goal of peace, right? And
Yeah, they there is a point where they have they think that they've reached this utopian society, and they clearly haven't. But just the very fact that they've gotten rid of the things to get there and they're striving for it all the time, uh, I think is a better picture than what's going on in Star Wars. Star Wars hasn't made it to the point to where anybody can try for a peaceful society because through the entire thing they're in the midst of war with the Empire.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about. I was looking through some of the comments here. I am not pro empire. You know, I'm not saying that's a better model for society. I'm talking about the Rebel Alliance, who's fighting against that and trying to establish a new government and same goal, for peace, to get rid of slavery and things like that. Um,
Well, I think though that we have to we can't exclude the fact that the Empire exists in the Star Wars universe. And I agree with you that those people are striving for that better universe, that more perfect universe that they're looking for. But I think that where they are in the Star Wars universe is way far behind anything that the Federation is. That I don't think they're anywhere close to achieving that, or that we even know for sure they will achieve it.
so, do you get vibes from like Devin Outcast here says Star Trek's to tell of high and mighty colonialism. Do you get that vibe from Star Trek? Like when people came to America, and wanted to Christianize the heathens and all that, the savages. Do you get that kind of thing from Star Trek, where they discover these new worlds and what happens in the midst of that?
Um,
And I don't mean Christianize. I'm just talking about, you're going to have our form of government kind of thing.
yeah, no, I don't see that they force that on anyone, and also the the prom directive, which yes gets violated from every time it comes up, pretty much. But it's at least the guidelines to prevent that. They're not allowed to go in and make decisions for other societies. In fact, you find out quite often in Star Trek that when they visit these other societies, that a lot of times they'll unknowingly break some law or whatever within that society's laws, and they will. It's always, hey, we're guests here, we will be responsible for what their laws are. They don't ever impose their laws on those other
Until they want to join the Federation.
well, there's certain guidelines that, I mean, you can't be out murdering other societies and stuff and join the Federation. They one of the requirements is that they actually be able to be allies with the other planets that are there, not attacking them.
Yeah. And then you brought up how money isn't really a thing there. That reminds me of Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home,
Sure.
where he's talking, where Kirk's talking to, I can't remember the woman's name now, but the one who helps them with the whales there. Um, and she's talking about money. She needs money for this and that. And he's like, you still use money in this century? He said, we got rid of money a long time ago. Everybody just works for the common good. So do you think that that's better? Do you think
that that
that's
they that they've formed a cashless society.
yes?
Yeah, I think that's way better.
And do you think that's realistic? You think that's something that we could actually have one day?
Sure, I do actually. And I think that is something that we could do. I mean, you still see the hoarding of resources by individuals in Star Trek. I mean, you still have people who even though a standard currency isn't there, there's still some hoarding of resources and stuff.
Right.
But it's very minimal. And like the Ferengis, even though they become allies of the Federation, they still deal in Latinum. So not everyone has been forced to become a cashless society. Humanity has done that though on Earth.
But I think people, they want to be creative. You know, They want to build things. They want to trade things, not because they have to, because they're forced to, for the good of society, but because what they do gives their life meaning. Don't you think we would lose that in that type of society?
Well, I mean, I think Star Trek demonstrates quite the opposite.
Well, yeah, it's
John,
well written.
well, I mean, if we're gonna break the fourth wall, then Star Wars is well written too. But
Oh yeah.
the each of us have that to deal with if we go there. But the I think that you see like Riker plays the trombone and sometimes the trumpet. Um, Picard is very into old books and things like that. People have hobbies and like if they get bored with those things, they have holodecks also where they can create any world they want and
Hmm.
go and experience that. So I don't think you see those things go away. In fact, I think that art is much more prevalent within the Star Trek movies than it is the Star Wars movies.
So you don't see the Federation and every, what's, the people in Star Trek is like a military ruled society.
Well, it's very specific that if you follow the Star Trek timeline, their goals have always been to be an exploratory society, and the weapons and stuff that are defensive at first, and then later, whenever like the Dominion War comes about, they start having to build defensive warships again to defend themselves in that. Which, but um, yeah, I don't.
I just see it as conformity wrapped in diplomacy. It's cultural assimilation. I mean,
Yeah, I
everybody
don't. I
dresses
don't.
the same, they talk the same, they believe the same. But in Star Wars, you get, Wookiees and Jawas and Hutts and, all everybody
But
coexists through trade and shared struggles. And you don't get
but
that in
but
Star Wars.
why? So I have to ask that question there. Why do they talk the same and stuff? It's not that they're not speaking English because the Federation requires that they do. They're that's just the universe they live in, where people that aren't they're not as creative with the various races as they are in Star Trek. But I mean, you do have rich languages like Klingon and you got to remember too, whenever they interact with these things, there's a universal translator at play. Uh, so we're not always hearing what the actual language is that those people speak.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the only questions I had so far.
Okay, so I think that I would ask you whenever we look at the at least the mainline Star Wars movies.
Hmm.
Um, what story do we see being told there? We see the fall of society as they know it,
Yeah.
the destruction of the Jedi, the spiritual group that you speak about that is so great. I think the Jedi are great, but I think that all but a couple are killed off by the time we get there, and we actually see the end of the Jedi at the end of Star Trek. So, um, but what do we see with that society? We see a society that is flourishing and may have carried that argument for being a better society. But by the time that these stories come around, that society is filled with corruption and failing and gives rise to the empire because of the state that their society is in. Would be my opinion. What do you think about that?
Um. Well, I still see it as you know, it's a people rising up. Yeah, yeah. Everything was destroyed there. You see the rise of the empire and everything, but the people didn't just sit back and take it. They came together and they fought and fought in spite of their differences.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I think Star Wars is a great example of a story of hope and where that can lead. But
yeah, I think it's an
we
essential lesson for any, real society. But Star Trek, they assume the Federation's going to stay pure forever. Star Wars says freedom can die if good people do nothing, and
Yeah.
I think that's the whole point of it.
Well, I do too, but if we're discussing like better societies, I think that the while it does fill you with that sense of hope, and you do see those people striving to take back over and do good things with the galaxy in Star Wars. They haven't even really got the ball rolling there though yet. They're still small groups of the rebels, and yeah, they're winning, but at what cost? I mean, we see entire planets destroyed in both the episode 4, 5, and 6, and then in the later
Hmm.
episodes with Planet Killer Base, we see or Star Killer Base, whatever it's called. We see them destroy lots of planets, and um, the so I don't think the rebel cause has while it's admirable and it's a great cause. I don't think that they're the majority by any means.
Well, okay, yeah, I don't know with Star Wars. I see um, basically people in spite of all the things, the horrible things that's happening, people making the choice to stand and fight. I see real, free will there, and people, even the lowest, person has a chance to rise up and become a hero. Where in Star Trek, the only people you see who get to rise up and be heroes are Starfleet graduates. You know.
I would argue that midichlorians ruined that for you in Star Wars.
Okay, but does everybody have that?
No, they don't have it, and but the people that are heroes, for the most part, do. Uh,
Oh,
the
okay.
um, the
Han Solo
the
didn't.
no, no,
Chewbacca
and
didn't.
but who are the stories about? There, I mean, while Han Solo is a character in those stories, it's about the Jedi. The
But he went
names
on
of
to
the
become a
movie are
hero,
based
though.
on,
He's
huh?
he's one of the biggest heroes in at
Sure.
least 4, 5, and
No, no,
6.
I don't disagree that he is a hero. But he's one hero, and the the primary thing though the movies are about, and the only reason that Han Solo survives to be a hero, because remember he's frozen in carbonite at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
The only reason that he's still there is because of the Jedi, because someone is still a Jedi, but the you know, the Jedi have all been destroyed by this point, and the only reason that Luke is a Jedi is because when they went back and made um, 1, 2, and 3, they they changed A New Hope. Was anybody could become this Jedi person, whereas they retcon that and tell you that it's about midichlorians, and so nobody else has a chance to be the hero that Luke is, that Leia is. Han helps them, and is a
Hmm.
hero as well. Chewie is a hero as well. I'm not
Right.
saying heroes don't exist, but the primary reason that they're saved is because of a race that is eventually gone by the end of those movies.
Okay. All right. Well,
So um, the you had mentioned in your opening about how there's these different sectors of people, and you have like a smuggling contingent, and that's one thing that people do, and I think that smuggling exists also in the Star Trek universe. Obviously, there's it goes on quite often actually, but the fact that any commerce that takes place for those hopeful people you're talking about has to be smuggling because the Galactic Empire controls all that by that point. The As we see in the early movies, the Trade Federation and all that stuff, which eventually gets absorbed by the Empire and is part of the evil doing, and they control the system, and that's why that. free trade isn't a thing there. The In Star Trek, all through the series, we see where they whenever they do come across societies that want some sort of payment for whatever, that they do commerce, and it's done out in the open and okay. Star Wars, you see people don't even have basic needs. Um, some of them don't have hardly clothes to wear; they're falling apart. We see whole planets of people that are incredibly poor and not doing well. And I
Right.
don't think that those things don't exist in the Star Wars or Star Trek empire, but I think again they're more prevalent in Star Wars.
Hmm. But why are they prevalent in Star Wars? Because of the Empire,
Yeah.
right? And once again, that's the whole point of Star Wars, is to fight back to get a better society. They don't want it to stay that way. This is the reason they're fighting.
Would you say at the end of Star Wars that the empire is destroyed,
At
or at least
which
crippled?
what let be more specific. We're talking about what, part 6,
So, no, episode 9. They've destroyed the primary bases. They've destroyed the
right?
Sith. Um, the you know at the end they've destroyed the Sith. So Rey goes and buries the lightsabers and walks off into the sunset.
Right.
So it kind of implies that they've defeated the Empire. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. Um,
but so just assuming that they have, because just to make this point, whether uh, the at that point, I agree that Star Wars is moving in the right direction, but I would say they're just starting on a road that Star Trek has been following for hundreds and well over yeah hundreds of years, and so um, I don't think that they are precluded from having that successful society that Star Trek has, but they're just starting that road by the end of the movies.
yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
that's
like
that's why I
at
kind of think Star Trek's figured out a lot of things already.
yeah. Well, like at the end of part 6, we thought the tide had changed there. When Darth Vader dies, and then he's back to being Anakin in the spirit world, or whatever. But and then in part 9, it's the same thing. It's kind of that, okay, things look peaceful now, but what could happen? They leave you with that, that kind of cliffhanger kind of thing. What's going to happen next?
Yeah,
Because that is the pattern in Star Wars. That just when you think everything's good to go, up here comes something else.
yeah. I don't think they. Yeah, I mean you're right. I don't think they flat out say that these things are all fixed.
Right.
It was kind of at the very least they have crippled the empire though by the end of that. And back to another point though, you mentioned that the Jedi are looking for balance, but
Yeah.
I would argue that what we see in Star Wars that isn't actually how they define balance isn't very balanced. The the Jedi, whenever they think that Anakin is the chosen one, um, they say, and it's even one of the closing lines before he goes full fledged Darth Vader is that
Right.
you were supposed to be the chosen one. You were supposed to bring
Yeah.
balance to
Anakin
the
was supposed to
Force.
bring balance. Yeah.
Yeah, and how they define balance is the problem there because they think that the way that he brings balance to the Force is by destroying the Sith, and he even says that. He says he says you weren't supposed to do this. You were supposed to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force, whereas balance would actually be the Jedi were in control of the government for the most part, and they were losing that control in the first three episodes. And they had what they called balance wasn't actually balance. I think that Anakin did bring balance to the Force, but that was by the Empire rising and controlling things for as long as the Jedi had already.
So you think that the Sith is let me think how to ask this. So you think that by adding the Jedi that made society better? That was what brought balance to the Force, was by getting rid of the Jedi and making the Sith more powerful.
No, no,
Is that what you're saying?
I think that and what I'm driving at here is that Star Wars isn't capable of a utopian society for this reason, because of the Force. Because what balancing the Force actually meant was the Jedi who had control of I say the government, but they didn't so much of have control, but they were like the executives for the government. And the
Yeah.
um, the Jedi, they call bringing balance to the Force this chosen one that will destroy the Sith. But what we find out is that it's more gray than that, right? So balance actually means that the Jedi have controlled things and done all this for all this time. And yes, they've been peaceful, but in order to bring
Right.
balance, the Sith has to do that same thing. And as long as one of them exists, the other has to. And so there will always be this fighting. And again, midichlorians are the problem there for that.
Yeah. And so, do you think the Sith is more evil than the Jedi?
Yeah, I think that I think that the Sith their method of rule is control by force. I don't think that that's the Jedi way. I don't think that the Jedi look to enslave every planet underneath them the way that the Empire does.
Right. My problem though with the Jedi has always been that, in ways the Sith seem better in some ways, because like Jedi's, you have to shut down every emotion. You're not supposed to feel love. You're not supposed to feel anger or anything like that. And the Sith are saying, no, we're going to glory in our emotions. So what would be the balance there?
Well,
Isn't Anakin a perfect example of that balance? He has his good parts, his love. He tries to shut down some of his emotions and things, but at the same time, he has this love, you know,
well,
for Padme.
I think that if we were to define it that way, I guess you could get there. But the balance that they speak of is the light and the dark, and
Hmm.
the dark side of the Force is the Sith, and the light side of the Force is the Jedi. So
Right.
it's not a matter of what they're capable of. I would say the Sith is more powerful than the Jedi, and that's demonstrated over and over and over. Um, but the Jedi defeat the Sith despite that fact. And the story that they're trying to tell is they defeat them despite the fact that they're more powerful and more capable, but they despite them based on hope and those things. And that's not a bad thing. I just don't. Um, I think it's a volatile thing because anytime in the Star Wars universe that you have peace because people who support the light side have taken over, the Sith rises again. And
Hmm.
they actually demonstrate this in just the titling of the movies because we have the Revenge of the Sith, and then we have the uh, Return of the Jedi later. these things keep going back and forth, and it's this imbalance in the force going back and forth that is has put them like eternally in war at this point. They seem to be unable to move past war because every time one side of the force gains any sort of foothold, the balance in the force strengthens the other side, and they take back over. So they're
Yeah,
constantly at war with each other.
and that's why I don't think that we've seen the last of the Sith. That's you're asking about the ending. That's
Yeah.
why I'm like it's still up in the air because of what you just said. They always seem to make a comeback somehow. You know,
Well,
as long as one exists, the other has to exist, and
that's
we still
actually
have
the point
Jedi.
that I was making by that was the
Yeah,
uh, you just didn't agree that they had destroyed it. I was saying they've destroyed them and they're just now on that road to a peaceful, better society. They've just started on that,
yeah.
and what we
Well,
see
that's what I mean.
historically
I
within
don't think. Yeah, I don't think they've destroyed them. I think they're going to come back. They think they're destroyed.
well, whether
You
they're
know,
destroyed or not, though, they have to come back because the Force exists in Star Wars, and the
right?
Force must be balanced. That's one of the things they talk about later. Is no matter what happens, there must eventually be balance to the Force.
Right, right. And
But
but
but their idea of what balance is in the first three episodes is different from what it is later because they learn. Balance doesn't mean the Jedi controls everything and we're all at peace because the light side is better. It explains it breaks that down to where the light side may be more preferable for certain
yeah,
people, but the dark side will always gather its footing back and keeps them in
yeah.
war. But
And see, that's why I love Star Wars. That's why I think it's a better model for our society, or it's something I can relate to better because it's a constant struggle. Where with Star Trek, everything's wrapped up by the end of the episode or the end of the movie, and they have a little mixer in the lounge, and it's over. It's done.
yeah, well, I mean, some of that has to do with the I mean, I would argue that the Star Trek movies aren't quite that way, but the episodes certainly, but Star Wars wasn't like a episodic in that way. So, they had these big grand ideas in the movie, and they of course um they're able to tell this big story. I would agree in every way that Star Wars is much more imaginative and it's a bigger
Oh yeah,
universe, and lots of other things that it outdoes Star Trek in a number of ways on. Um, but
yeah. I
if
just
if
won.
I'm trying to be non-biased towards which is the
Yeah,
better society, then
yeah,
I'm not going to I'm not going to take this society and try to like apply it to that one, like and judge it that way. So
and I understand. That I mean there is a difference because you know I don't consider Star Wars sci-fi, to be honest with you. It has a little bit of that in it, but it's fantasy, you know, and it's set, it's a space opera that's set, uh, 5 million years ago or whatever, a galaxy far, far away, long, long ago, all that. Where Star Trek is, the future,
yeah,
you know, and it's supposed to be based on Earth. Star Wars is worlds we've never heard of, you know.
yeah. Star Wars doesn't try to um, tell us anything about humans at all because humans, as we know it, are in a galaxy far, far away from there. So, whereas Star Trek does try to I might have said that backwards. Star Wars doesn't do that. Star Trek does try to tell us our future is better this way, and it does make it somewhat easier to then apply it to humans on Earth or society as we know it, in
Right.
that way because it's talking about society as we know it.
Yeah. Now, I will say that the downside, as you pointed out, with Star Wars is the constant fighting, the constant wars, and all that. But what I'm getting at is why I think it's. I'm not saying that part's better, but what I believe to be better about it is the people. The
Yeah.
people are what make it great. The way they fight back and won't stand for it, and they want to make a better society, and I think that's why I relate to it better, why I like it better, is
Well,
seeing someone willing to stand up against what's going on around them,
I
which is what
think
we
in
need
an
more of now.
I think in an episodic thing like Star Trek, it's easy to forget that they do those things too, though, don't they? Because all the time, the Enterprise is the underdog in the situation they're going into, and it's only
Yeah,
because that they're a family and they work together, and that great technology they have, and their strength and alliance with other races that enables them to conquer those things and to survive those things. The For example, the Borg. When Q first sends Enterprise out and it meets the Borg and takes heavy damage and all that stuff, they know the Borg is coming,
right.
and they know how bad that is for them. And they try their best to prepare and stuff. And although they're not able to, when that one Borg ship comes and destroys everybody at Wolf 359, we then, or no, that's the Battle of Sector 001. Sorry. Um, the, you know, we do see Star Trek and the Federation being defeated there, but the story is actually about the Enterprise being the underdog. They've destroyed all these other ships and stuff, but the Enterprise is able to figure out how to, gain control of Picard slash Locutus and to overcome that. So those storylines and that motif is still there. But again, they're doing it in smaller chunks a lot of time in Star Trek. Not that Star Trek doesn't have movies too where they do that. Obviously, they changed the
Right.
whole future with First Contact, but I think it's still there though.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just I get this feeling from Star Trek where it's like basically the Federation is like, we're going to help this suffering planet, but we got to get the paperwork done first and things. Where in Star Wars, the rebels don't debate that. They just fight.
Well,
They're like, okay, let's go. You know.
well, no, and I think you're right in some sense there because they do just they're just okay. Well, let's just fight back. Um, and I think the story that Star Trek is telling you is the Federation thinks they've achieved all these things, and they live in this utopian society at least for some time where they believe that they've solved all these problems. But it's we see through those that there's problems within that bureaucracy. There's problems with there's problems and stuff that affect Star Trek Command that they don't foresee. And the real story is about how they overcome those things and attempt to still be that utopian society, even if they come to find out that the reality that they thought they lived in isn't the one that they do. It's still a matter of they still have that as well, though. It's just done a little differently, I believe. Um,
Yeah.
the bureaucracy of the Federation, at least on Earth, is what causes a lot of their problems. And I don't remember the name of the episode. It's one of the early seasons. I think it's the third season, where the brain worms infect the admirals at Starfleet, and Picard and Riker go and they try to get them to eat bowls of worms and stuff because that's what they eat, and so I think that. I think that Star Trek tries to let you think they have that utopian society already figured out and that they control everything, but we see they can't even control their own stuff in that sense, and that there's a lot of things they haven't considered. So the technology and stuff is way ahead, and it is a much
But see,
different
that's
universe, but they still deal with some of those same issues, and there's still heroes and stuff there.
that's the problem with Star Trek is everything is about technology. Like I said earlier, technology is supposed to be the answer for everything. But I think it leads to this technocracy where Star Wars tries to bring meaning to their progress. It says technology is not enough. You need ethics. You need heart. You need the courage to question authority. And I think without that humanity, that human side, then you become the Borg. You know.
Yeah. In
I mean,
just
I
a
think
second, guys,
Star,
I'll put up a poll.
but I think Star Trek shows us what happens when we finally stop being human and depend totally on technology for everything. Where Star Wars shows us how to be better humans while still being human. And I think that's just the difference. That's the main difference between both of them and why I prefer Star Wars.
Well, that technology in Star Trek eventually, and although I don't care much for this storyline, um, it eventually leads to humans being essentially immortal. Uh, the, sorry, um,
Immortal.
the eventually they get technology to the point to where Picard, his whole consciousness is able to be put into a synthetic being, and what goal has mankind reached for the most, if not um, um, immortality? I mean, going back to things like the Fountain of Youth and stuff, that's always been what they've strived for, and even though that they've reached that, you can't then say, well, it's a negative thing because this society has reached their goals, and they don't get to fight for them like these other people do. I don't think that's a positive thing. I think it's a negative thing. Although I would honestly, if I was you, I would make the argument that the universe that Star Trek thinks they live in isn't the one they actually live in.
What do you mean?
Well, even though
The perfect
they do all this with
utopia
the
and all that?
synthetics, and the Federation is this huge lumbering thing that they think is positive, that there's actually they haven't actually reached those goals. They are deluding themselves in thinking that they've reached those things, and that every time they think they've reached those things, we see that they get defeated for that very arrogance. Um,
Right. Okay. I see
so
what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, that's the angle I would have took at it, but that's me. Like it
Yeah,
don't
but I'm
matter.
not as smart as you, Joe. Come on. I'm from
Well, I'm
Southeast
not saying it's
Missouri. You can't
better.
expect much from me,
I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's one of many ways you could argue it. I would say there's
Yeah.
far better ways to argue in
I,
defense of Star Trek than
yeah.
I did. But
But I think my main thing was just trying to show, that the humanity and the power of people coming together and standing up for what they believe in, as opposed to just depending on technology to solve all our problems. That's where I think I was just trying to show the humanity of Star Wars as opposed to this kind of perfect utopian, technologically and a superior race that is in Star Trek. But I think that's where I was kind of trying to keep it balanced
oh,
out.
I don't disagree with your take on that. The question that I tried to flip that on its head with, though, is that better, though? Is that humanity, just because it makes you feel a way, is it actually better for society? And what makes that good versus what makes the other bad? How do
Well,
we
see,
make that decision?
but that's what I was saying though. I think it's much better because, um, of the fact that it's about staying human even with the advances in technology. Um, so yeah, I think that's much better to have people who are emotional and fight for a bigger cause, and even where the lowliest person can rise to greatness in that kind of environment. Where in Star Trek they can't unless they go to Starfleet, and even then they gotta hope that they're not wearing the red shirt. You know.
All right. Right. I would have brought that up too, the red shirt thing. I think that's a
Yeah, I
good
should have brought
point.
that up earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
At
that's
least,
that's really all I had, Joe.
well, no, I think that I think that it was excellent. I think that it's and it's fun to talk about and think about because I agree with you on some of your reasoning there, but it was my job to be the other side of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, it's the same here. I agreed with a lot of the things you said. Because I
yeah,
love Star Trek too. Like I said, I just prefer Star Wars. I don't know. Maybe it's
yeah.
because I've been watching it since I was a little kid, and there's like that nostalgia thing. I don't know.
Well, see, that's kind of how I am with Star Trek because
Yeah,
when I was before I ever knew what Star Wars was, my dad had all the original Star Trek movies. We had all of them, and
hmm
he was a big fan of the original series. And then by the time I was in like middle school, going into high school and stuff, which actually it was earlier than that. I would have still been in elementary school when the Next
yeah,
Generation came out, actually, but um, it was. I kind of grew up though, at least my teenage years, watching the Next Generation and what came after that.
yeah. Well, I
So
mean,
for
I know
me, it was
Star
just
Trek was around, when I was a kid. I know that, but then it was just the old TV show reruns, and
I
it
want to
didn't
say
have the
though that
following it does now.
let me. I'm not sure about this, but I want to say that the Next Generation.
Yeah, when did
Uh,
that come out? I
Let
know it
me
was
look.
early '90s, right?
I
I
thought it
think I
was
was in
80.
high school. Was it late '80s? Because like I
87.
said, '87. Wow.
Yeah,
So I was where was I?
yeah. I was only 5.
Yeah, I was in sixth grade.
Yeah,
Yeah, going in, getting ready to go into seventh grade. Yeah. So
yeah. So it just kind of happened that I grew up more with that. Star Wars I didn't discover, and not that I didn't discover it. Of course, I'd seen the Star Wars movies as a kid, but the I didn't really get into the lore and stuff of Star Wars until later. I didn't
yeah,
really have that bigger respect for Star Wars until later. Uh,
and
Star
like
Wars is
like I
actually
was
my
saying,
favorite. I
yeah,
prefer the Star Wars movie franchise to Star Trek. Just to be clear,
yeah.
uh, I
But
think that they're better movies.
like I said, when I was a kid, we had the reruns, of Star Trek, but it really didn't have the following that it got later. The first Star Trek movie came out what in like '81, something like that.
Yeah,
So I was, and even then it bombed horribly. It wasn't until Wrath of Khan that I think it really took off.
yeah.
That was
The
a great movie. Anything with Ricardo Montalban is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Love that guy.
yeah, I know he's awesome. I think that the original series, right? People don't realize that the original series was only what, like 3 seasons, I think.
Yeah, I
It
think
it
so. Yeah, it
it
wasn't
was,
very. Yeah.
and two of those were later. Um,
hmm
um, the original series didn't become this cult classic until later, and the like the motion picture was kind of ripped off a rip off of Star Wars. They tried to like depend totally on um, CG to get it done and on special effects
Oh, and
and
I couldn't take the costumes in that because, like, their uniforms in the
sucked.
first
Yeah,
Star Trek movie,
yeah,
yeah, they had that guy from Seventh Heaven. The guy who got in all the trouble a few years ago.
yeah,
Um, and it's like it was so freaking tight, you could like see all the things. I was
yeah.
like, we really didn't need that.
Well,
Um,
that back in the original Star Trek, they as they were leaving the 60s and 70s behind, they kind of started to leave some of that behind and started to more standardize the uniforms and stuff. Um,
which is weird because he was in the first movie, and then the the woman who played his wife in Seventh Heaven was in part four, the one we were talking about earlier, the one who helped the wells or helped with the
Yeah.
wells.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I can't remember her name in that movie, but
I can't remember either. It's been so long
the
since I've seen it.
that's that's a good one. I like that one though. Uh,
But to me, two, three, and four were like a whole different story. It was all about Spock, and his death and return and trying to learn again, become who he was.
yeah,
You know, it was
and I
almost
mean,
like a standalone thing.
it's funny that we get that story when Leonard Nimoy starts directing and producing.
Yeah, and they're
But
my favorites. Two, three, and four are my favorites, especially two and three.
yeah,
Four kind of,
The Wrath of Khan is obviously uh, my favorite. The
yeah,
Of the original series movies, The Wrath of Khan. The Wrath of Khan. I
definitely.
won't even say it's my favorite. It's the best of those movies. In every metric you could look at, it's the highest selling. It's the most popular. It's most referred to as the best Star Trek movie ever. Uh,
Hmm.
the Wrath of Khan. I think the search for Spock was a little bit slow. Um, the voyage home though was you but see you kind of need all those pieces to understand the whole story though.
Yeah, because you
But
need the whole, to get the Genesis thing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
The
crazy.
Undiscovered Country was pretty good though. Even though it was that was a William Shatner piece there,
Was
and
that five?
yeah, yeah.
That's the one with the guy who's or where they go to see God. Is that right?
No,
Or
that's
was that the voyage home? Or was that the voyage home? I can't remember
no,
now.
yeah, that's the second one, isn't it?
No, where they it's Spock's half brother. Uh,
Yeah,
is this guy they pick up, and he's like a messiah kind of cult leader kind of thing, and he hijacks the starship to go see God on this planet. I think it was five or six. I think it was five. Well, so whatever five was, I can't remember now.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
get the
I'm
titles
missing one
mixed
in
up.
there somewhere because
Yeah,
you're right.
because
That's
it has my favorite scene ever. Where they're up there talking to God, and here comes Kirk. Excuse me. Why would God need a starship?
yeah, yeah.
That was just the best line ever. But yeah, that was part five. I just can't remember what the name of that freaking
Have you
thing
ever
was.
watched the original series episode that kind of grows off of because it's
I don't know. I
that
really
they
don't know.
actually in the original series they run into that being before. Um
Oh, really?
that's not
That's
they
cool.
run into the god people before in the original.
Well, I
Um
noticed a lot of the movies were kind of based on earlier episodes.
yeah.
Not the whole thing, but little parts here and there seemed like they called back to some of that. Even with Khan, you know, Khan was in the original series, and the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
eugenics war and
Well,
all that.
that's where they get the augments and all that from is Khan. Um,
Hmm.
and then every iteration has done some sort of episode on the augments are still out there,
Hmm.
in some way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think because maybe that's they take over the planet and then they go. I think that's the later. That's the one where Spock has the boots that the boots that fly, the jet boots.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Um,
part five. I
yeah.
know it's part five. I just can't remember what it was called.
Well, they've got the Voyage Home, the Final Frontier, the
Might have been the Final Frontier. Let me look it
yeah,
up real quick because now that's going to drive me freaking nuts until I know for sure. Let's see. Star Trek Five.
Undiscovered Country is the one with the Klingons.
Yeah, this one's the Final Frontier.
Yeah, the Final Frontier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I keep
that's
forgetting we
because
have Google now.
at the beginning they're supposedly retiring and they've um he saves Kirk from falling off the cliff
Yeah,
with the boots, and they
yeah,
kind
and
of
they're
call it back
camping.
later.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I like that too. I think that's a
While
good one.
Bones is down there making beans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's all I got, Joe. I'm you know
Well, I think that's fine. I think we had a good time. Just because we both like both of those franchises, yet we understood the
mhm.
job at hand here was to make an argument for one,
Yeah.
even though I would say that there's certain aspects of Star Wars that are better and certain aspects of Star Trek that are better,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well, see,
Um,
I think also it's like I said earlier, like a nostalgic kind of thing for me, because like the earliest thing I can remember, is this. I had this Darth Vader carrying case that had a lot of action figures in it. You could collect action figures and put it inside the case, and I had a bunch of those, and someone stole it. Just one of my brother's friends, I think, stole it and pawned it or something. I don't know, but my brother's friends would usually do that. They'd come in and take my things and pawn them for, so they could go get high or whatever. But
yeah,
but yeah, it's that's like my earliest memory. That and going to the movies with my sister to see Return of the Jedi, which was like '83, I think, something like that when that came out. But
yeah.
yeah,
Let me go see how our poll did here.
we had a
Uh,
poll.
Yeah, I put a poll up and asked the audience the same question, which they thought was better. I didn't mean to, but oh,
So
wait, no, I
does
didn't.
this?
It's still here. I still got it. I don't have to
Okay.
reopen it. Um, End poll. Come on, give me the results. Is it not
Da,
going to get? Oh,
da,
there
da,
it goes.
da.
Star Trek 75%, Star Wars 25%, but there was only 4 votes. So, you know,
Ah.
three to one. For those 4 votes.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
I
Deviant
smell
Outcast
conspiracy.
was the only vote.
I know, right? Right, Deviant Outcast. That's just ridiculous. I think something's a little shady here myself. I think Joe voted 3 times under different names. So uh,
I've been known to fire up a
no.
sock account when necessary.
No, I'm playing. But
Um,
no, that's what people told me going into this. Like I said, they were like, uh, you chose Star Wars, man. You've lost already. And I was like, come on, give me a chance here.
well, I mean, the question's purely subjective about whatever you think, and um, Star Trek, though, the problem with arguing against Star Trek is that they do have the appearance of the more polished, peaceful society. If you listen to them speak, they've done away with all of man's problems and everything's great. But that's not really the truth of it, is it?
But the thing is, Star Trek is everything we're fighting against right now. We don't want that kind of military run government that Star Trek has.
Well,
You
the
know,
Federation
we
isn't a military.
it's close enough. Government controlled like that. No, not like that.
Well, I would argue that you actually have even more of that because that was actually the main because I kind of figured that's where you would go. So my main argument was that in Star Wars you actually have more of that because you have a galactic empire, not just a federation of planets. You have a
But it's
galactic.
not about the Galactic Empire. It's about the rebels fighting against that kind of oppression. In Star Trek,
I
they
think the
just
Empire
accept it.
Strikes
This is
Back
how
is
the
all
world
about
is
the
now.
Empire.
Huh?
The Empire Strikes Back is all about the Empire, and they're actually winning by the end of that movie.
Yeah, but
The
the rebels are still fighting them at the end of that
Yeah, but
movie.
you're right. The movie isn't about the Galactic Empire. It's about the story of overcoming the Galactic
Well, I mean, it's
Empire.
not just the movies, it's the books, it's the television shows.
Oh,
Everything is
sure,
about that fight,
sure.
against that kind of control, that kind of
Yeah,
government, that kind of power.
it is about that fight, and who they're fighting is a galactic empire that is very oppressive and in a lot of ways more violent than anybody but the Borg in Star Trek. And the Borg is they eventually figure out how to defeat them too. Um, the they do much of the same thing in Star Trek, but it's easy to not notice that they're doing the same thing because they do most of it's done within the series, within episodes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think a lot of it is just because of the popularity of Star Trek among atheists. Atheists
Sure.
always choose Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
maybe.
I'm
I
kidding.
mean, the but I would say that even in Star Trek, we do see that gods exist, at least deities anyway. The Q are everything that gods are. Um,
Yeah, but the Force isn't a god. The Force is
it's
bringing
a
out
religion,
that next part of yourself. I'm talking about the Force itself.
you
You know,
know.
I'm not talking about the people like the Jedi who kind of worship at that, but I mean the Force itself is there to bring out that better side of you. It's like the next step in evolution. You know.
Well, I mean, the Force is a religion that ends up being real, right? But lots of people are atheists to the Force in Star Wars. They believe
Hmm.
that it's. In fact, Han Solo, he doesn't believe in any of it till he sees it, happen with his own eyes.
Hmm.
The it just happens that their religion turns out to be grounded in some kind of truth, whereas in Star Trek, it's not so much religion. Although, like, I would say that many, many different races we see have religions that are um, at least some truth to them. The Klingons with Kalis and uh, the they have various deities and things, and sometimes it's a play on science force where they have a sufficiently sophisticated um, futuristic race of people has technology that is so powerful that the people on the planet can't tell the difference between that and a god. They're tricked.
Hmm.
Um,
I don't know. I think the Sith has blinded your mind so that you
the
can't see the true light of the Force. You know.
Sith has clouded everything.
Yes.
The um, there's a but the thing that Star Wars does, the midichlorians was the worst thing they ever did,
Oh
because
yeah.
then
I'll
it's
agree
not
with that.
because that hope and stuff that you're basing all that on,
Hmm.
that takes away all that. Like, then not just anybody can be it. Then it's Luke was this special person because he was a special person, because
Have
of his lineage, not because of the ability of anyone to overcome. But
have you read any of the books where it gets into the lore? The ancient history, before Star Wars and all that.
I've read a couple of them, and I've read some of the Star Trek books as well.
Yeah, and you see where like the deal with the midichlorians and everything. It was like basically an experiment, that led into that.
Yeah,
Um,
but they then took that and said that it's no longer canon. So
well, yeah, that's the problem with all the Star Trek stuff. Is 1 minute this is like everybody agrees with, the next thing, no, they were wrong. We're not going to include that anymore. But we have a new way to explain that.
well, Star Trek and Star
Star Wars
Wars
is
both do that.
yeah, but it's frustrating because you can't
Yeah,
even
no,
keep the
I
lore
agree.
straight
It
anymore.
it it,
You
it,
know.
it's a silly thing, but yeah, I think we had a good conversation and a good talk, and the people who wanted to show up and watch it did, and this topic isn't going to be for everybody in this community, but
Mhm.
um, it's
Well, like you were saying earlier, it's just something every there's so much bad news out there and so much just heavy stuff. Just I just thought it'd be fun to do something a little lighthearted, just just kind of get a break from that for a little bit, for just one thing.
Yeah, yeah. They they you have these franchises that stretch over so many different years and stuff, and different people who are executives and things, and you always get somewhere along the way someone who comes in and think, oh, I know what we need to do to fix this, and they introduce this whole new thing that does more damage than good to the story that they're trying to tell. Uh,
Yeah.
and both of them do that. I mean, but the I'm big fans of both of those franchises, so I wouldn't say I would say they both have their appeals. I don't I don't really hold either one of them in front of the other. I think that Star Trek is way neater for the technology and some of the things they do, and Star Wars is cool for a different reason. Has to do with the story of overcoming the
Hmm.
evil, I guess. So there's it's just different things, you know.
Yeah. I
7 p.m. Jess. Oh, I see. Deviant Outcast already answered you. 7 p.m. this evening will be the three versus three.
oh, just
Um,
just in closing here, I just want to put this on the record. I see Star Trek as like a, a a redneck wearing a MAGA hat driving a pickup truck listening to Merle Haggard on the radio, where I see Star Wars as a headbanger out moshing in the pit. So, that's just me. You
yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair argument. I don't think that you're wrong. Like,
know.
I just I think though that I think that the Federation, though, that whether they're successful all the time at it or not, their goal very much is to have peace with those other places, and not to impose their will on others. And things like the Prime Directive, again, which doesn't always work the way it's designed to, it is meant to keep them from interfering. And imposing themselves on others. I think it's meant to be like a balance of power thing, like we have in government now. I
Yeah.
think that that's one of the things that's meant to keep them from becoming this colonial imperialists. You know?
Right. Yeah. Can I just address Jess real quick?
Yeah.
Um, she's talking about look up Star Wars and the Message of Jesus on Amazon. This will relate anything to the Reese. You're right. When I was a teenager, growing up in the late '80s, early '90s, um, there was an evangelist who went around talking about how Star Wars was basically the gospel message, and he would use Star Wars to try to evangelize to teenagers. Even like my mom, because I brought that up to my mom when I was a teenager. She said when she was a kid, there was a guy who did the same thing with Peanuts cartoons. Charlie Brown, everything. It was called the Gospel According to Peanuts, and he had a book out and everything where he would do this. It's just you're right. They'll use anything that they
Yeah.
think they can win you with.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything they can trick you into, and whether they're trying to trick you or not, it's different. But all the same,
And
you
Archie
get tricked.
comics. Yeah,
But
yeah.
the Archie comics, yeah, I remember those. The I
Yeah.
was a big comic book collector when I was a kid.
Oh, me
Baseball
too.
cards and comic books I collected,
Yeah.
but collecting baseball cards was still a thing when I was a kid. Uh, now it's something totally different, not the same thing at all.
Yeah,
but
I don't know about you, but my comic books always had like Dr. J and or Magic Johnson and Larry Bird in the back, promoting Twinkies. So
yeah, I had some of those too. I collected specific comic books. I liked the X-Men comic books,
mhm.
the Spider-Man comic books, the Batman comic books, and the Superman comic books. Uh, I was really into the superheroes and stuff in comic books, and the um, uh, the Superman comic books were probably my big one until the first Death of Superman came out, and it was like this fancy comic book that came out, and
Yeah, I
I
still have
remember
that.
reading that and thinking, "This is fucking garbage. This is garbage."
Yeah,
And sure
that's
enough,
exactly what I thought.
they had to go and bring Superman back because
Hmm.
they fucked up so bad there, but they had to
Yeah, how
redo
many
all
times have
that,
they killed
and
Superman now?
uh,
I said, how many times have they killed Superman now? Because I had that one you're talking about. It came out in like '93 or
yeah, yeah,
somewhere around there. Yeah,
yeah, that's
I
about
still
right,
have that
93.
somewhere, packed away
Yeah,
somewhere. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Whenever he fought, I can't remember his name now, but
I
uh,
can't remember that either. I don't know if I
but
actually read it. I
but
think I
yeah,
just kept it in the plastic.
it
Yeah,
was a it was. I remember when I got that comic book because it was like the coolest cover and like it was badass and it was made so cool. And then I read the whole thing and I was like, this is garbage. This is fucking stupid.
yeah,
Um, you know, but again, it's probably a thing where I grew up with me and my dad watched the Superman movies a lot and stuff, and so then whenever I got into the comics, I was interested in that. I did it kind of backwards, um, but then also like growing up as a kid, like the old black and white Superman episodes were on Nick at Night, and so I watched a lot of that stuff too. And I was just, I don't know, I was into Superman, and then of course Batman was totally my childhood because the revival of Batman from the '60s to what Batman is now started with the Michael Keaton Batman
yeah.
back in the '80s, but
Tim Burton. Yeah,
yeah, the but yeah, I was into all that stuff, and I enjoy having these conversations. I think that sometimes sometimes what I do for sure, but what many of us do here, we don't get a chance to express our nerdiness enough. And just nerd out on Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff
right.
without having to hear, you know, something about objective morality or Noah's Ark. The so
Yeah.
it's a fun exercise, and it was cool getting to have the conversation. We could sit and talk the ins and outs of Star Wars and Star Trek all day, man. For real, I could.
Oh yeah.
And I've watched these movies so many times that it's. I told you whenever you brought it up, I said I literally just watched all of the Star Wars movies and all of the Star Trek movies in the last few weeks.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm always game to talk about that kind of stuff. It's fun.
Well,
Um,
see, I'll watch like 1 through 6, especially 4 through 6, like over and over again. But the three that just came out recently, the last three, 7, 8, and 9, not so much.
yeah,
I
they're
watched them
awful.
when they came out, and that was about it. I don't think I ever rewatched any of them.
Yeah, the uh, I brought that up early. That was one of the first things I brought up, Jess. Um, but
Yeah, and I said how we were against that. That was the Empire, not us. We That's one of the things we were fighting for.
yeah,
I
um,
say we because in my mind I'm a Jedi fighter, so we're
yeah,
not there.
free slave Leia. Well, each their own, I guess. the the I don't know. I mean, I think it's a lot of fun to do this, and I would, I'd be happy to do more like lighthearted things like this where we're not arguing something that one side of the argument takes so seriously.
Hmm.
We both come into this understanding that they're both fictional franchises that we're not really suggesting that either one of them is even plausible for anything. It's just a fun exercise in arguing about things you get to nerd out about sometimes. So
Well,
um, you know,
next time we can do Betty versus Veronica. Who really loved Archie. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know if I'd be the right guy for that one. Uh,
but no, I just thanks for for doing this and having this conversation with me. I I've been trying to figure out something we could do, and that just hit me that day, in the chat, and I was like, hey, we should do that. That would be fun.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it was fun. I think it was a good time, and I'm down to do other stuff like this. Even this wheel thing I'm trying to do, which for those of you who may not know, there'll be a three versus three thing tonight with three atheists and three creationists, and we've got a wheel we're going to spin that's going to pick the topics, and it's going to be kind of like a not necessarily speed debating, but we're going to move through topics a little faster. We've got like 10 topics loaded up. We'll probably get through 4 or 5 of them.
The
And,
wheel of fish.
maybe they can be used again later or something. I'm looking for ways to do things that allows the audience to be interactive with what's going on. That's the thing I'm trying to accomplish here. And so the original idea with that was to let people like you could super chat and I was going to make it like you could super chat like $1 and make someone have to be quiet for a minute, or you could super chat like $2 and make us respin the wheel, or you could super chat $5 and pick a different topic off the wheel yourself. Um,
Oh,
a way for people to be interactive with it in that way
how
to
much? How
actually have
much
an
to
effect
boot?
on where the show goes.
How much to boot someone off the panel?
Yeah, see, I thought about that too, but the thing that came up was, well, hey, if you let one of these creationists open up with our argument, and then you have a whole atheist chat there that then decides to to spin the wheel after you've crushed them on some topic and not let them speak back. Um, they're going to say that you cheated and it was fixed and all that other stuff. And
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, let's just take out the super chat stuff for now. We'll just do the thing, and I'll work more on that later and figure out how to incorporate some of that stuff. Um,
Right.
and it doesn't have to be super chats necessarily. I'm just trying to think of the best way to do it. Just trying to think of a way to change things up a little bit while still doing some of the same stuff. Um, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It'll probably be a shit show. Three versus three. I didn't want to do this at all. Like I was
No,
against
no.
it. Um, but they refused to take part. They didn't want to face just me because they said that I was making it clickbait that way, and that I was just trying to make it seem like I was some smart guy or something by taking on all three of them. I was just
So,
doing that for the sake of it not being a dumpster fire.
yeah,
But
so can I ask a question about it?
yeah,
Um, I don't, and you might have said this. I don't know because my brain goes places sometimes. But uh, when they spin the wheel, do they get to decide? Okay, I want to take on that topic, or I don't want to talk about that one, so let someone else do it. Or
no,
does
so
everyone have to address it?
we all picked the topics that are on the wheel. So when
Okay.
you spin, if your topic comes up, you have to start.
Okay, but I mean everybody else. Does everybody have to comment on that, or do they wait for the next one? Or
Not everybody has to, but the way that I wanted to do it was is that you have to start, and you have up to 5 minutes to make your case of whatever the problem is with that topic that you picked, because all of these topics are supposed to be problems for the other side. So
right,
you get 5 minutes to lay out what the problem is, and then we go straight into, like, as part of the response we start a back and forth, and then just obviously, of the three of us, like, objective ethics is he's going to be more likely to field most of the questions about morality and stuff like that,
right,
because it's a thing he argues a lot. Austin is more likely to cover most of the ERV stuff and all that, and I think Orphan Genes is on there. I'll probably cover that more than anybody. I think I have a better grasp on that than the other two. But there's, we each are aware that we have strengths in those topics. And so there'll obviously be places where, hey, let me take this one because I'm more prepared for this argument than most people or whatever. So I think
and
that. I don't know. I think that, but at the same time, if somebody wants to pitch in or whatever, like as long as everybody's not talking over each other, I don't mind that everybody throws in.
And who did you say was moderating?
Let's Farm will be the moderator.
That's fun. Okay, that'd be
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. He moderated a couple other things with me, and has
Oh
always
yeah.
done a good job and stuff. So
Yeah, he does great on that. Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be
but
good. Well, I know you got a bunch to do and everything. I just want to say thanks again for having me on here today
yeah,
and doing
yeah.
this.
No,
And
I appreciate it. It was fun, and maybe
yeah,
we
I
can
had a
come
lot of
up with
fun.
more topics like this, and I would like to see other people in the community kind of do this just for fun, just to have fun
Yeah,
doing it, you know. Um,
right.
and if you're into this kind of thing, like I said, 7 p.m. Eastern, there'll be some more debates over here on this channel. We're gonna have three creationists versus three atheists. It'll be myself, Austin Sims, and Objective Ethics versus Proverbs guys, Achilles and Joseph, all creationists from that hang out over on the Proverbs guys channel. They challenged this, and I tried to do 3 versus 1, but they didn't want to do that, so we set up the 3 versus 3. But that'll be tonight at 7 p.m. Everybody come check it out. And Jess, anytime you want to do it, we can. But thank you everybody for coming and watching, and thank you Philbert for the fun. It was a good time.
Yeah,
We can and come hang out and have more talks with me, man. We can talk about whatever over here. It doesn't necessarily have to be so serious all the time. Just But yeah, you're welcome to come hang out. Um, like I said, the thing tonight at 7, and then I'll probably do a member stream on Monday afternoon around 1 o'clock. So that's the stuff I got coming up. What do you got going on, Philbert?
I got my live stream tonight. I'm going to be looking at a video. Uh, oh man, I can't remember the guy's name. Trent Horn, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Um, but he's uh, God, I just went completely blank. You ever do that? Um, but no, we're just going to be talking. He's got three questions that he thinks stump atheist, and so I'm going to look at that and see if it stumps me or not. Which it doesn't take much to stump me. Just show me something shiny, and I'm done for.
Yeah.
But so we're
Well,
going to look at that and kind of talk about that tonight, and I'm going to talk about this too tonight. And see if anybody watched it and what they thought. See if they thought you rigged the poll there or what. So no.
uh, yeah. I will. I don't have it down there now, but I'll include a link to your channel down in the description here for anybody that wants to go over there and check that out. Go over there and subscribe to Philbert's channel. And you know, as always, again, I appreciate everybody that supports the channel, whether it's a subscriber or just watching the videos or whatever. I appreciate you guys coming and watching, and I'll see you hopefully later this evening. Take it easy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.